Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the phone number in the description.
Say that again.
How deep? What's the effective stacks?
Okay, so the effective stack is 1586.
Okay, so pretty deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm calling, because I really don't have a lot of experience playing this deep.
Okay.
Okay, so he raises from, well, we're only seven-handed, and he's under the gun +1.
Okay, so 7.
And he raises to 7, which is pretty small for this game, but it was his standard raise.
Okay, from what position?
Under the gun +1.
Okay.
And I'm right next to him, and I look down at Jack of Diamonds, Jack of Clubs, and I make it 25.
Okay.
We get one other caller. It's the big blind, and he's a completely unremarkable player and doesn't factor in this hand at all.
Okay.
Flop comes 8 of diamonds.
So V1
clubs.
just calls too, right?
Yes. Villain just calls.
All right, so go to the flop.
Yep. 8 of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 7 of diamonds.
So you've got an overpair, and you've got Jack of Diamonds, Jack of Clubs. You 3-bet UTG1 from 7 to 25. Big blind cold calls in between. Call. Is the big blind sort of shallow? Is he super deep too? Do you remember?
No. That's the thing. He called off 1/5 of the stack. He's got like
okay,
100 left.
So he's a short stack. So we're not really concerned about him. So, I mean, what I would say is that, and I talk about this a lot in my material too. There are certain boards where you, especially if you're 3-betting out of the blind against like a late position raiser, when you're playing the high stakes, you have to have respect for the board and ranges and things like that. But the lower stakes that you play, most of the time I'm just going for straight value without really any respect for the board, meaning that I'm going to bet a lot of my overpairs, even on boards that sort of favor my opponent's range in the field. Like if the board comes out 9-7-6 and I've raised with aces under the gun and the cutoff and the button call, like I'm not checking there, at 5-5 at the bike. Here it's a little bit different because it's 3-bets UTG1, against, UTG versus UTG1. So, but just because, he's a deep stack doesn't mean that he's playing the right hands either. I mean, I guess he possibly could have an 8, but I would certainly bet off here if checked to. So is that what happens? It gets checked to you?
Exactly. It gets checked to me, and it's why I called. We actually think about poker a lot. When I play the higher games, I usually play whatever the highest game is at the casino, and just so happens 1-2 is all that was going.
Okay.
So, it was checked to me. I bet 30.
Okay.
The big blind folded, and the villain calls.
Okay, so V1 calls.
Yep.
Okay.
The turn is the 3 of clubs.
Okay.
It's checked to me. And I bet 60. I don't know if this is a check back or not, but I just kept going for value, honestly.
So the pot's 75. You bet 30 into 75 on 8-8-7 in a call. So now the pot is, 135, something like that on the turn?
135, correct.
And you bet 60. I got to be honest with you. If I would bet, I would tend to go larger here. I mean,
larger, okay. Well,
I guess he could be calling with ace highs, but
I wasn't sure.
I mean, I guess he could be calling with ace highs, but you've got a ton of. I mean, you have the sort of range advantage in the sense of the 3-bet. You're 3-betting a lot of, and you have a very, very strong range here. So, yeah, I might go 75 or 80 or something like that. So you bet 60.
Yeah, you know what? I thought about that, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just, we were so deep. I was so weirded out by bloating a pot and trying to make really big decisions. So I was trying to avoid that, I guess, a little bit. But
right. I mean, there's there's obviously an old concept called pot control. And the funny thing was that Barry Greenstein was one of the first guys. I would ask him way back on Live of the Bike, back in 2005, right? I was like, what do you think about pot control, Barry? We've got your hand, should we be checking back jacks, queens, kings? And he's like, I don't like to give out free cards. Pot control is very overrated. He said something like that. And it really makes sense looking at it 13, 14 years later, because especially in a 3-bet pot, now I'm not necessarily saying this guy, but why do you pot control? Why should you be concerned about pot controlling against people that just aren't semi-bluffing all that much? You know what I mean? You're just losing value. So I mean, there obviously are
Okay.
times to do it against the right opponents and things like that, but
Well, this is the same guy that
yeah.
did try bluffing me off that hand with a semi-bluff on the turn in the other hand that I described. So I was a little afraid of that, and I don't know. You know what? I was thinking maybe.
I mean,
you could.
I mean, listen, you could check back to get him to bluff the river. I don't really consider that pot control. I feel like there are some better hands to do that with because your hand needs a little bit more protection, right? Like if you had aces or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So you bet 30.
Yeah.
So you get checked to you bet 60. Uh-huh.
I did.
Yeah.
And he raises to 200.
So UTG raises to 200. So obviously there's front door diamonds and back door clubs. You have jack of diamonds, jack of clubs, which you'd rather have the offsuit jacks, something like that.
I would.
I assume that the guy isn't going to be. Hold on. I assume that the guy is not going to be sophisticated enough to try to flat. Like the right play here from his perspective pre-flop is if he has aces or kings, is definitely to 4-bet with that big blind squeeze in between. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if I'm just trying to think of some other hands. So, you know, if you take aces and kings out of his range, he never should be really check raising with queens. I'm just looking at this from a fundamental standpoint. But I mean, who knows if this guy is on this level? Then he's repping like a really strong hand here. Like whether that is, you know, ace 8 suited that calls your 3-bet, pocket sevens, possibly taking one off with threes and hitting it, something like that. And then, you know, on the turn, he might have some 9-10 suited types of semi-bluffs.
Exactly.
He might have some ace high backdoor club semi-bluffs, you know, something like that. I can't tell you if it's a fold or not. I mean, there are certain people that I would fold to at small stakes when they check raise turn here, snap fold, and there are certain people that I wouldn't. You know what I mean? If you think he's the aggressive type, then, I mean, you certainly can call. I mean, the river's going to, you know, you're in position. That's the advantage here. So I assume you called.
I decided with the speech play earlier and our hand earlier that I was going to call the turn and basically fold almost every river if he decided to go ahead and fire again. So I did make the call.
Uh-huh.
And the river is the jack of hearts.
Okay, so you make full house.
I do.
Okay. And the pot, by the way, the pot is what?
535.
535. Okay, cool. It's 535, and
and he bets 300.
So UTG bets 300 into 535. So if you make the call, you have what, like 900 left, something like that. Probably start with 12.
I believe we have just over 1,000 left effective. We're just about pot. Because we started with 186, so I think maybe he has. I have him covered. He has like maybe 1,030, 1,025
after the
left.
300.
After the 300.
Okay, so I'm just doing a little math. So if you call the 300, the pot will be like 11. So it's like a pot size bet, right?
Yep. Correct. We will basically give a pot size bet left.
I got to tell you, with 9-10 coming in, and the possibility that he has pocket sevens or 8-7 or pocket threes, I don't think he's folding. 1-2 players aren't folding. I don't think you're gonna dink and dunk here. Just move all in. Okay, that's what I would do. I would move all in for sure, without a doubt. At the lower stakes, get full value for sure.
Okay, so I was just wondering. It's 1-2. There are very few times you see $1,000.
Sure, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
This guy is probably listening to this right now.
Oh yeah.
If he has threes or 7-8 or pocket sevens, would you recommend for him to call off $1,000 bet here on the river?
If he had sevens or threes and you don't see much play, like you don't see the pot get this big at this level, and I bet and a guy jammed on me, I might find a fold. But that doesn't mean that your play of all in. I mean, but that's me though. You're trying to maximize your value, and you don't know a guy's going to fold that. You know what I mean? So, and that's because no one's going to exploit me to ever bluff. Like when somebody is playing 800 big blinds deep at 1-2 and all the money goes in, that's going to be a very, very nutted hand, obviously,
Right, and that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid that if I moved in here, his call would just be 8-8, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, but I did move all in.
You think his call would only be quads, you mean?
Well, that's what I was wondering, is that would his... Well, I mean, I don't know how anyone could ever fold 8-7, so I figured he was definitely going to call 8-7 suited, and that he was going to call 8s. But I thought he might find a fold with 7s and 3s. And he's definitely folding 9-10.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some people in the chat are saying some interesting stuff too. This is an interesting spot because obviously I haven't played down at 1-2 in years and years and years. But I would tell you, obviously, there's a lot of people that listen to my advice, through Crush Live Poker and stuff, that usually just trying to get full value over the long term is going to be better. Now, usually you're not going to see people who are 1-2 players, listening to Crush Live Poker until you call Crush Live Collins and capable of bet folding at this level. But it sounds to me like these guys might be 2-5 players normally, and they normally play big.
Yeah,
so.
He is normally a 2-5 player.
I just don't think it's that much of a mistake. I mean, I would probably do the same thing. So you moved all in?
I did. He called. He had 8-7 suited.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't think there's anything he could have done anyway. It was just a cooler, but it was just we were so deep. I thought it was kind of a weird spot, and I didn't know what a calling range would be for a 500 big blind blood on the river.
Well, what's the difference between him having like 7s and 8-7 there, really? Or really 3s for that matter. I mean, I guess 3s is different because you might have 7s, and do you 3-bet 7-8 suited?
Your distribution, I guess.
No, that's true, but I'm just thinking about your 3-betting range from UTG1. Like, if I don't even know if you're 3-betting any of those hands. So if you take that out of your range, it's higher in your distribution, but you don't have those hands. So
right.
I'm not sure. Okay. It's interesting. But thanks for the call. It was an interesting one.
All right. Thank you.
Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA200. Click on the link right there.